Hi, Steven.
Hello, Rovi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How was service for you?
Service was awesome.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Okay, so we talked about something very interesting.
Yeah.
And I have questions.
Okay.
I have questions for you regarding the topic of family because
Yeah.
that was today's topic. So my first question would be, how do you think God designed family to actually shape society?
Okay. How God designed family to shape society.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the unit of society. From the
Okay.
very start, God created Adam.
Mm-hmm.
From Adam, He brought forth Eve. Yeah, the fall happened in Genesis chapter 3, but after that, then you had their own children, Cain and Abel, and from two people, spread out the whole civilization of the whole world. It shows us that family is the basic unit. So every family is a basic unit of the society. And you know that popular thing that I said, charity begins at home.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that determines our identity and the people that we end up becoming in society is determined by the families that we're born into. The value systems that they have, which of course also means the value system that our dads and moms bring into the relationship by which they form the family. So families shape the world by shaping the people that come from them, yeah.
That's very interesting. But it's not a secret. We can see how nowadays we're kind of losing all
Yeah.
these values. It seems like we've forgotten how families are supposed to function. Men and women don't know what is the role
They're
and
supposed to do.
everything. Do you really think there's still hope? Because so many families are already dysfunctional. So
Yeah.
how can we get back to that design that God had intended from the beginning?
I mean, there's hope. A strong part of it has to be like a lot of re-education. The media successfully, for instance, taught men that they are not important in their houses.
Okay.
Like they've successfully taught men. We were discussing before we came on that men have largely been abandoned in society. They've not been taught. So there's a lot that goes into teaching women how they're supposed to behave,
Okay.
teaching women how special they are, teaching women how to do this, teaching women how to do that.
Okay.
But when you go through scripture, every time there's a breakdown of family, God never calls the woman, God calls the man. It's his responsibility. The woman is called his helper. Ezra Kenegdo is the Hebrew word, is a strong person. She has a different type of strength.
Yeah.
But even the first breakdown of family, which is in the Garden of Eden, even after the fall, the first person that God called was Adam.
Yeah.
Why did this happen? Who told you so? You go, every single place you go to, God called Abraham. He said to Abraham, now there was not a breakdown in that case, but God didn't say, I will command Sarah, she will teach her household after me. He said, I will command Abraham, he will teach his own household after me. Even when Jesus was coming, God had to go to Joseph in the dream and tell him the things that would be. Now, of course, his mother knew a lot of things as well, but it
Yeah.
was also his responsibility. So, largely, there's hope, but there has to be re-education that has to be done. And I think the church can do a lot with this. Many churches have men's ministries and things like that. Problems with men's ministries is many times it's like the men are always too busy, they're at work and things like that. So interesting ways have to be brought about to, get them engaged. Because if men become responsible, society is going to work, families are going to work, and so societies are going to work. And there's a statistic that I saw that, and this is not a gripe against women, but there's a statistic that I saw that of course in the US there are all sort of single parent households, but
Yeah.
they checked the percentages of situations where you had a single mother household versus you had a single father household. Of course the best is to have the father and the mother,
Yeah.
but they checked the situations where the person had a single mother, especially in the African American community. Many of those young men ended up in jail, they were in gangs, they did drugs, because there's a level to which a mother can discipline his son.
Okay.
In the same way, many of the young ladies were pregnant before they were 19, they were aborting pregnancies, they also became single mothers.
Yeah.
But when it was a single father household, there's a kind of law that a father lays down that is different from what a mother can do.
Okay.
I remember experiences too well of my mom beating me after I'd reached puberty, and I was like, leave me alone, it's not a big deal, yeah. But when she says, I will tell your father, Jesus Christ, my heart will start beating. I'll say, Jesus, please help me. Help me. If you can help me in this situation, I'm not going to do it again. So And so for young men, the person, and it's why for single mothers, one of the things that they do is that they ensure that their sons have like a male role model around that can teach them, because there are things you can't teach a son as a mother. You know, of course, we want there to be a father and a mother, but because a man is so important, because what he does is that he informs the identity of his child. There are studies that have shown that sexually deviant behaviors come from broken identities because of the absence of fathers, either that they were not there physically or that they were there physically but they were not available emotionally.
Okay.
So daddy issues comes from things like a young girl feeling rejected by her father from a young age because she didn't know what it means to be loved. You look at most properly psychologically adjusted females, you find that they had good fathers who were interested in them, they showed interest in them. Some of them took them on daddy-daughter dates and stuff like that. You know, they experienced what it meant to be loved, you know. But when you look at young ladies who are, for lack of a better word, psychologically maladjusted, you know, their minds are all over the place, they have daddy issues, you find that for many of them, you can almost tell, you ask them, how's your relationship with your father? And they'll be like, no, I hate him, he hates me, and stuff like that. Like, I've seen it too many times, you know. Yeah.
From there, I mean, you've mentioned so many things, and I love that you're talking about men and their needs. It's really important.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand everything. I have a question from a woman perspective, right? Yes, you know, the man is supposed to be all of that, but as a woman, what is our role, you know, to bring that balance?
Yeah, so there's a lot of balance that has to be brought. I mean, of course, you can go into like the fact that there's a lot of things that a female child will never learn from her dad in, you know, taking care of the family and things like that, some of the things like that. But for the most part, children when they're very young need a lot of nurturing. Okay. You know, so one of the things that I said is that when children are, you know, very young, maybe below 9, 10, they need their mother more than they need their dad. You know, because at that stage what they need is somebody to cuddle them and say, oh baby, how are you doing, and stuff like that. But then as they begin to grow into a level of maturity, they need their dads and things like that. So women, and it's like there's a death of femininity today. I mean, so many women are no longer feminine. All of them just want to be, why do you want to be a man? Why do you want to be independent? Nobody wants to take care of you. They say that nobody can. Like there needs to be also a rebirth of feminine women who genuinely feel like they've spent their lives well if all they did was take care of their families. Now, we're not saying that should be the only thing, because we have very amazing women in ministry, very amazing women in business, and you know, some of them have been able to make it work. But you'll find that even for women who are at the top of their careers, many of them have what you call mommy guilt, because they have that problem that they're not taking care of their families, because God put that design in a woman to have that nurturing, that level of nurturing, you know. Another part is that a young man learns also how to treat his mother, for instance, from how his dad treats his mom. You will have seen some of those videos online. The dad is feeding the mom, and then the son also takes the spoon and starts feeding. He learns, you know, so like they are brought together because we have different strengths, you know. So there's a lot of things that I learned from my mom. You know, my mom saves quite a lot. My mom is a very intelligent person. She taught me mathematics more than my dad did. You know, so we can speak more generally, but there's also the specifics that, you know, that is there, that we're both here together to make sure that these children, you know, grow up to be useful in society. I think the most important part is that both the man and the woman have to cooperate. One thing that my mom always told me is that, you know, that there were situations where people felt like, oh, she was not independent and all that. She was like, that's your problem. I'm cooperating with my husband and my children are becoming successful in society. What else could I really want? You know, so I think that cooperation, you know, so to the role of women, nurturing, you know, genuine femininity, you know, genuinely wanting to just come into that space and be there for the children, because and it's why so many people are like, oh, when they're giving speeches, I want to thank my mom and stuff like that. Many times people forget their dads because their dads have to be very hard on them, especially as men. It's like, you know, but everybody remembers their mom. She was there when this happened. It's really only a mom that is going to be following you to every rehearsal that you have for something like I watched a bit of chess, and there's this young man and his sister that are like really good chess players in the world. Their mom is always with them. Most dads will not do that. And it's not because anything is wrong with that, but it's because that's not necessarily how they're supposed to operate.
Yeah.
They're supposed to provide for their families as one of the things. They're supposed to set the vision. But the mom is like, yeah, my children, my children, my children, my children, my children. And it's part of what God designed, that level of care and nurturing, you know. So a lot of people seem to love their mom more than they love their dads, you know. But it's a way in which God designed things so that, you know, there can be that true flow of nurturing. And for a lot of people don't enjoy nurturing, you know. So like some women, sometimes women are just so concerned about their bodies, like, oh, my body's going to look like this after I give birth. It's like, forget about it, it's okay.
I mean, it's not, but alright.
I mean, because like I've heard women say things like they stopped breastfeeding early because, you know, they just didn't like how it felt on their body and stuff like that. Why do you think God gave it to you before? You think it's just for beauty? It's to feed the children. You know, so many are not interested in that nurturing aspect, you know. So a key function of a woman in the household is that nurturing aspect, you know, to nurture. A woman comes into the house and there's one plate of food. She's going to cook more food. She's not going to eat that one. A man comes into the house, he will eat that one and then say, okay, now let's think of what everybody else will eat. Because it's different mindset. None is wrong. It's just that, and you can see how it's a system that now, when both comes together, it brings a much more beautiful result, you know. So yeah, nurturing.
This is such a good conversation, and I'm really happy that you've emphasized the point that essentially it comes from God. That we have this feeling of nurturing, and what I'm going to take with me is the fact that, okay, the man and the woman have a role. So they should just focus on their own strengths, the ones that God has given us, and then from there will be a balance, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's really beautiful. That's a really beautiful way to summarize it.
I think families can be so much better. Families can be so much better, you know. I didn't want to teach on this, you know, initially as well, but families can be so much better. And if we get family right, we can get every other thing so right, you know. So we trust God for grace, even for broken families, that you know, it would bring healing in those families that are broken. And we pray for people that have come from broken families as well, that, you know, God will give them the grace that a broken family would also not come out of them, you know. We trust God, and it was awesome talking with you.
I mean, we can't really do it without God initially, so that's really great. Thank you so much, Stephen. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Same as well.